Hey there, I am Dr. Deb. Let me just get the light a little better here. And I hope that today there won't be any mess ups and that there will be people on aside from me because I'm on clearly. But I want to see people. So here's the thing. If you're out there, please chat in, say hi, say you're there. And if you're too shy to do that, I totally understand. But at least if there's something I'm saying that you don't agree with, I would love an argument. Not that I like arguing, I really don't like arguing, but I do like conversation, which is actually what today's topic is all about. So please go ahead and chat in if you have something to say to give me a different side of things or ask a question, or if you want to support what I'm saying, that's fine too. So I am going to plunge right into today's talk. But before I do, I want to introduce myself to anybody who's new here. I am Dr. Deb. Thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. And it is Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern time, and that is why I'm talking to you. I'm really good about this. I did mess up a few weeks ago. I don't exactly know why, something technical, but I think I figured it out because here we are. And the most important thing I want you to know is that I really prefer and enjoy interaction. So let's get on with it. What does a healthy marriage look like? And I said in my intro, if anybody did get to read my little blurb there about today's talk, it's not about fighting fair in the sense that when a person's upset, they're not going to necessarily be able to control their temper or control what they say. So it's not about having a list of rules in your head as to how to fight fair. That's just not going to work. And it's not about staying calm and breathing because no one can do that. That's not physiologically possible. So, what's the magic? What's the secret ingredient? And let's start with what does a healthy marriage look like? What would it actually look like so that we can sort of figure out how we can get there? Just this morning, I happened to be reading over my coffee an article from a magazine that I've been subscribing to for a million years because it's fun, the Psychotherapy Network, or I think anybody can. You don't have to be a therapist. It's really well written, which is one of the fun things about this magazine. So the writer is a writer by profession, and he's talking about how he ended up changing careers. And he's talking about going out with his wife on a walk. And he says, Liz is a kind person. In all the years we've known each other, I've never heard her speak a cruel word to anyone, myself included. Although that day she exploded. And I was quite surprised. I said, what exactly are you saying? And she said very bluntly, find another source of income. And money is a topic that people will have issues with, right? That's normal. Looking back, it's hard to believe this stung so badly. After all, what do married couples do except share the burden of securing their joint future? Somehow, though, it felt as if Liz were voting no confidence on my entire way of being. So he's taking this very personally because your job usually is very personal. What you do for most people is something that kind of matters to them. And she said, now that she's demanding I come up with a new way of being or find myself divorced, although she didn't actually use the word divorce. But I was full of wounded outrage. And I said, but what exactly do you want me to do? Like quit being a writer and become what? A therapist? As if therapists make a lot of money. We don't. That actually sounds great, Liz said. Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. You really want me to quit being a writer? No, of course not. And you'd never do that anyway. But just, I don't know. Why not become a therapist or do something else? Okay. I want my audience to weigh in here. Why does this sound to me like these people are in what I call a healthy or healed marriage? Meaning, what's good about it? They're fighting and they're not using rules. They're not. What's good about it? What's working? Is there anyone who can say or feels comfortable typing into the chat why it's okay? Why there's nothing wrong with this? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, but if you're watching this later on replay, I think it would be really fun if you stop it, just press stop, right? And think about the answer before you hear me give it. But now that you're on live, I'm just going to give you. What these people did in the course of their so-called argument is that they were not against each other. If you remember, he says she was kind always. She never said a cruel word. And indeed, there is no cruelty here. She's not happy with his income, but there's no cruelty. There's none of her chopping him down. She's talking about what she wants and why she wants it. And she was explaining that it's tough because making ends together, making ends meet was tough for her. So there was no cruelty. That's point number one. They were not against each other. Number two, if you noticed, and I admit I read it fast, so you can go back and re-listen, they listened to each other and they incorporated each other's points into what each person was saying. One of the main irritations that people have with their spouse when they have a real fight is that the other one never listens. The other one literally doesn't hear that person. And in fact, I remember distinctly not that many months ago, a couple was in my room together fighting, which I never permit. I always separate people because why should you injure each other? I'd rather, if you can't sit together in a room together, then I'll work with you each until we get to that healthy point, which I'm going to explain as we go on, so that you can talk to each other, as this couple in the article did do. So the question is, what happened? The wife said some things, and I stopped everyone, and luckily I was able to get everyone to calm down. And I said to the husband, what did she say? And he only repeated up to the part where he got really upset. I said, okay, but what did she say after that? He said, I don't know. I couldn't hear her anymore. I was too upset. See, that's a key. When people become so upset that they can't hear each other anymore, that's a sign of a relationship that's not healed yet, and that probably will not be healed on its own. It takes very specific tools that you need the training in to get that way, which I'm going to go over here, and you should go to my channel the rest of the time and also read my blog posts to get more and more and more information. And if you can do it yourself, that's super duper. And if you can't, you can contact me. And if I have room, I'll take you on. And if I don't, I'll refer you to someone who does, and we'll work it out. But the point is, you do need tools to be able to hear each other. So just going back, when he says, what, you want me to quit being a writer? She's thinking about the money. She's upset about the fact that maybe she'll lose her job. And then what? He's not doing well enough, because writers, I guess, don't get very well paid either. But she answers, she heard him, and she heard his worry, and she answers him, no, of course not. You'd never do that anyway. But she's giving him an olive branch. She's hearing him. And the same thing is true of what he heard from her, because even though earlier in the conversation, he was outraged and he was wounded, as he himself admits, he still wants to hear from her. Well, what do you want me to do? So that ability of each person to hear each other and accurately, not mishear it, and take in what the other person actually said, and put that information side by side with their own information, their own feelings, their own worries and concerns, so that they can kind of weigh everything out. That's huge. That is a huge skill, to be able to do that. Now, let me just go on to a few more points, and then I'm going to talk about the skill itself. Okay. Another thing that the people do who are in a healed marriage is, although they're upset, they don't allow that upsetness to weigh on them, and they can't even go to sleep at night. Although it doesn't say that in this article, they will talk before they go to sleep at night to try to settle and straighten out and clarify any misunderstandings. Why would they do that? The answer is, and this is another piece of what it means to be healed. The answer is that although each person's upset, they have compassion for each other. They don't want whatever they said or misjudged or misunderstood or whatever in the conversation to hurt their partner. They're not looking for that. God forbid. So they care enough. That's called having compassion. They care enough about the other person to want to straighten something out. Does that mean they stay up till 3 a.m. talking? No. Why not? Why wouldn't it? Somebody answer. Somebody tell me why. I would love to hear from you. I know that people may feel a sense of concern. Their name is on the chat, and it'll be there forever, and I respect that. So this is true, because it will be public when it's finished recording and processing. So if you don't want to, I understand. But the answer is that if you stay up till 3 a.m. trying to clarify something, what you're really doing is you want to be heard. You don't want to listen. You don't want to soothe. You don't want to make friends. You just want to be heard. And that's no good. Now, whoever is the one that's keeping the whole family up. So how do you go to bed at night without it resolved and sleep well and help your partner sleep well? The answer is, you say, look, we'll talk some more another time, maybe tomorrow, maybe over the weekend, but I love you. Have a good night. Now, what if you're so angry that you can't say you love them? Well, why would you be so angry? If you were not personally attacked, but rather the problem was coming from something you were doing or need to do in accordance with the person who said it, then what's to be so terribly angry that you can't reach out with love and care? In fact, the master of behavioral treatments of this kind is John Gottman. And he said that when you analyze recordings of people who are either going to get a divorce because it's never going to work or they don't, you find that people who are not going to get a divorce, meaning the marriage has something going for it, there's some health there, is they care enough about each other to make 5 positive statements to the other person, even when they're upset in the course of an argument or over a course of a day, whatever it is. So the fact that the wife said, no, of course not, I'm not trying to take away from you what you love, that is actually affirming him. It's not overtly saying, I'm affirming you. You don't need to do that. But that's an example. And again, if anyone wants to type in examples they can think of affirming somebody else, let me know in the chat. So let me come up with other examples that can happen. Let's say a couple is angry at each other because one person feels that the other is spoiling the kids, and the one who's doing the so-called spoiling feels the first one is harsh, not just strict, but really hurtful. And so they have 2 different approaches to parenting. And one could still say to the other, even in the middle of all that, I know you love the kids. Or I know you're a good dad or a good mom. Look at how you do X, Y, and Z. So there you are in the middle of, in a sense, criticizing, and yet you're affirming the other person. You're validating what they do well. Because you see, part of being healthy is not seeing everything black and white. Or let's say not seeing only the black, right? You see the white and you see the gray. You see where there's good. You see the good. This is super important, to be able to see what the other person's doing that you support. Even if you personally wouldn't do it that way, you support it. Let me give you an example from my own work as a therapist. If a couple says to me, I want to get a divorce, my first reaction inside my gut is, oh, but I could help them. Why are they not listening to me? Why don't they try therapy? You know, like let's say all of you out there, you know, you say, I'm done, instead of trying, right? My reaction would be exactly what I just said, feeling, but I could help. But that's my agenda. That may not be where you are. And it would not be fair of me to put my agenda on you. I might say, in my heart, I feel like I could help you, but I get where you're coming from. This is a great example, I feel, of supporting someone who you don't even agree with. Because you have to understand where the other one is coming from. And this is 100% true in a marriage. And I can't think of a more common topic that I come up with that people come to me with is this parenting thing. And on the subject of money, like this article I was reading, again, one person may want to, let's just go on a vacation. We need a vacation. We are so burnt out. And the other one is all very conservative and counting their pennies and being careful. And they have to meet somewhere in the middle, right? They have to meet somewhere in the middle. Well, they could go on a mini vacation, or they could take turns in getting how they want it. You know, I would go every 3 months. You would only go once in 2 years. All right, maybe we'll go, you know, we'll do your turn now. We'll wait another year and then we'll go. I don't know. But the point is validating where the other one's coming from. There's no way 2 people are going to agree on everything, and they shouldn't. If 2 people agree on everything, They're not getting a world picture of how the world really looks. They're not getting a sense of another perspective. To me, agreeing on everything is like a beautiful piece of music without any of the harmonies, without any of those overtones or undertones that enrichen the musical experience. You need that. So it broadens you. It makes your whole sense of self wider and larger by having those other opinions, even if you don't agree with them. Now, I will say there's a limit to that. You can't have two people who are like, let's say one cheats on his taxes and the other is a straight shooter. That won't work, because when it comes to ethics, you can't have two different people on two different pages. But where it comes to vanilla and chocolate kinds of things, it's okay. It's fun. A friend of mine said she was dating her husband, and they're married a lot of years. Before the supermarkets would cut up a chicken into parts, you can only get whole chickens. So they had already enough dates that she felt like maybe this could work, you know? And she said, by the way, what part of the chicken do you like? And he said, oh, I like the dark meat. And she said, great, I like the white meat. We got a deal. Anyway, I thought that was cute. But the point is, you can't agree on everything, or even most things, but you've got to be able to support each other's view and show that you feel it, you get it. Okay? So finally, one thing that I will point out about this couple, and I think it is true of all the couples that I work with who work hard in therapy to try to make it work, they feel a connection. They feel connected to each other, even if it's only because they share the kids anymore. They're so discouraged. They're so unhappy. They've had so much downs with the ups, yet there's a connection. And that is healthy. Because if you don't have an underlying connection, the motive to work hard on making things better just isn't there. It makes it exhausting. And yes, a divorce is more exhausting and worse, but hopefully people feel like even if it takes a couple of years to weave its way through the system, you're still going to come out better for it. And perhaps that's true. I was never there in that position, so I can't speak to it, but I get it. So let me sum up some of the things that I've said, because they all fall under one title that covers the compassion, the listening, the validation, and the connection. And that one title is called self-leadership. The leadership of your true self, as opposed to the parts of you that have become defenses over the years that just jump up to make a fight. The parts of you that are automatic, don't listen, don't have compassion, only want to say what they want to say and cannot engage in a real conversation, and don't have connection. Why is it that they don't have these things? Because they're just doing one little job. They're a cog in a wheel. They have their one job: defend myself, or strike out, or leave the room, or don't listen, or whatever it is. And why is that? Because they were created by your life when you were a very little kid. Maybe you're only 3, maybe you're only 6, maybe you're only 16, but you're a little kid who wasn't yet mature enough to have self-leadership, which is normal. That's how little kids are. But without the parent guiding the child, and what do you think about this? And how do you feel about this? So as to help the self shine and gently push away all the parts with love that have come to be defending the person. Only through that process do you see yourself in a person who has not needed therapy. When that doesn't happen, therapy does not give you a self. You had a self all along, and your self is undamaged. It's your soul. You were born with it. It's beautiful. And I'm not making this up. It comes from Dr. Richard C. Schwartz, who is the creator of internal family systems. And those of you with religious values, it is very aligned to a religious look at the world and the role people have in it. We're a spark of the divine, according to Dr. Schwartz and according to religions that I'm aware of. So the point is that that good self always was there, undamaged, but it got covered up with defenses. And the simple job of therapy, and it's really quite, when you think about it, easy to conceptualize, a lot harder to do, yes, but makes sense. You tell me if it doesn't. The simple job of therapy is to help a person get to recognize, oh, that was one of my defenses, one of my protectors. Oh, that's my true self. I get it. And see a difference, see a distinction. Because it's when you recognize your true self and who it is and what it stands for, when you recognize that, it's at that point that you end up being able to gently whisper to the parts of you that want to take over in the middle of a heated thing, I get you, but let me handle this. So that you don't automatically react. Your heart doesn't pound, 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 pound. Meaning, you're not doing a behavioral tool. It's going to come automatically as you get to know your true self and your parts through the therapy process. It's just going to come automatically. It's like when you first learned to drive, if you can remember back to that point in time, you may have had to think, I have to look at that mirror, that mirror, that mirror. I have to turn the wheel. I have to use my feet. Oh my goodness, how am I going to? Okay, but it became automatic. You don't have to think anymore. That is what happens. By just working in therapy to isolate and define who yourself is and who your parts are, and love them all. Love yourself, love your parts, and recognize that even the parts that got you in trouble meant well. They were kids. Then when it comes to a so-called argument or fight, you're not going to need to have behavioral tools. It will come automatically as you see the whole thing happening and unfolding in front of you. So I like to ask questions if anybody has questions or comments, if you get it or you don't get it, I don't know. So let me know, because if you don't, I understand. But this is what I want you to take away, that it is possible to isolate and define that self in conjunction with all the parts that you love of who you are, but have the self be the leader so that you can participate in conversations in a healthy way and love and cherish your partner because they react the same. It's that simple. Again, it's not necessarily easy to do. Just like driving may take a person months to learn, and other skills, playing violin, maybe takes 5 years to learn or 10 to become good at it. My kids were in Suzuki violin as little kids. So yeah, it takes time, but it's okay. It's doable. And with that, I will say bye. Thank you for being on. Please drop comments, at least give likes, do stuff so that other people will realize this is valuable. And if you did not find it valuable, I would like you to email me. If you don't want to put it in the comments, although you can, drdeb@drdeb.com, DRDEB at drdeb.com, because I want to know what you want. What did you miss? You take care, guys.